Right. Welcome to the August 14, 2024 Flathead Reservation Water Management Board meeting. As always, we like to start with an opening prayer, so Lord, would you give us a-
Okay, go ahead and pray. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you for this day, for letting us all be here today, to gather here and meet on these important issues. Help us to make careful, wise decisions. Bless all of us, be in all of our hearts. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Great, thank you. As always, just announce that meeting minutes are on the Flathead Reservation Water Management Board.gov website. Moving on, any potential conflicts of interest? Hey.
No.
Ken?
No.
Lord?
No.
Roger?
No.
Lord,
No.
none here. All right, thank you. Attendance, please.
Clayton Matt,
Here?
Roger Noble,
Here.
George Spees,
Here,
George McLeod,
Here.
Ken Pitt,
Here.
Shane Henderson.
Here. Okay, thank you. So, are there any questions, changes to the agenda before we adopt? Roger?
I'd like to insert a couple little things. One is, Haley prepared that memo on personnel and operations updates. I thought maybe we could go over that. She could just brief everybody on that. And I think I'd insert that under probably the what's now 3.3 board resolution amendment, because it kind of has to deal with that. And so that would be kind of a segue to get into that, I think. And then the other suggestion I have is under 4.1 that we get maybe we could get a budget update from Rhonda on both the combination of the transition and how things are proceeding. And then the other only thing I had was on, I think it'd be good if we could adopt a kind of a standard format to this thing. And I don't know if the water engineers report should go like number 3 and board business number 4, or we should stick with board business as 3, but you know, this has kind of been rotating around for a while. So, and one of the things was that we would have it up front for public comment, but yet I know in other boards, you usually take care of the engineer's report early in the meeting and then move into your action items.
Okay, let me recap here. So, under the topic of board bylaws amendment, do you want Haley to review the letter that was sent out? Do we want to add that to this, or just assume she can?
I think we could add it in.
Do you want to do 3.3.3 for that?
Yeah, 3.3. Right, 3.3.
And then under the 4.1, you said add budget update. Rhonda, do you want to do a 4?
Yeah, we could just make it 4.1 and rotate everything in its down.
Oh, make it 4.1.
Yeah, yeah,
And then everything else goes 4.2, 4.3.
correct.
And then, the last thing was you want to talk about the format of the agenda. So can we make that 3.5?
Oh, sure, we could do that.
Well, 3.5 and go agenda format. Okay, with those suggestions, any other suggestions or comments?
No.
And, are we good with those changes, Shane?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, if there are no other questions, changes, or comments, take a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as modified.
Motion by George. Second. Second by Ken, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Hearing none, we have an agenda, okay. Public comment for items not on the agenda. Any public, we don't have any public in the audience, physically online, do we have anybody?
If anyone online would like to make a public comment, you can raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak. I see no public comment.
Okay. So no public comment at this time, there'll be opportunity for public comment again later in the agenda. Board business. Adopt meeting minutes from 8/8/2024. I see we added, I suggested, was motion by George, second by George, approved by 5 yes votes. That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if possible, we can use board members' last names. If you-
That's fine.
Okay,
Uh, any concern with that? No, good, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as provided.
Motion by Ryder,
Second.
second by George, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, you got a minute. Organizational chart discussion. All right, who's leading this? Let me, let me, let me start. So. Do you not have it?
I had the old one, I didn't, it wasn't the old one, the draft one.
Oh, the vote's on this one.
Yes, you-
So for our last discussion, and maybe it's just a progress thing here. Part of what we wanted to do is we had asked Haley to review some of the personnel, and I don't, unless we're through the personnel records review, part of that was, there was a direction the board wanted to give to move a couple of staff members directly into the board, which for budget purposes, for budgeting process. To do that, we wanted to review, one of the things I want to do is review and make sure that if we need to make changes to position descriptions or other personnel documents, that we do that in that process so that that's clear. And so that's really what I think that was. So is there anything else anyone has, or Haley, is there anything you have to update us on that?
Yeah, I guess just to provide an update, I received the employee or staff, position descriptions and then promotion plans, as well from the office on Monday. So I've been trying to piece through that, over the last few days. What I've initially noticed is that, yes, we will have to make some adjustments, especially, as to financial responsibilities. So overseeing finances and budgeting responsibilities. So that will definitely need to be upgraded.
Okay. So with that, it's open for further discussion. Any other questions, comments, discussion before we move? Okay, hearing none, 3.2 board action adopt bylaw amendment. So we've got a bylaw amendment, so, is that bylaw amendments, you have bylaws in there, so did you prepare the draft, Haley?
I have, I don't know if it's, I don't have the printout from today. Thank you. Put in a sentence in the, board meetings eligible for compensation, from the previous discussion on it. Let me just double check. See. I don't see it in here, but that's probably my error in not putting it in the right version, on share file, but it's a sentence and I can read it out to the board when we use the big screen to
Is
view it.
it, can we speed it up on the screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, can we put the file up on the screen?
Not the amendment.
No.
Yeah.
Section 5 then. So I don't think my sentence was transferred over to this. Then if you want to talk about this paragraph.
Happy to.
What page are you on?
It's right above section 5.2.
Yeah, there is something that happened between the punch out and the
Yeah.
this update, so I apologize, it doesn't look like the printed materials has that update included.
So are we in the right?
Yeah, if you go to that Word document right there,
Yeah.
and then the board will allow, we just need to go over it on the big screen. This is just the proposed language that would allow the board to kind of resolve the issue that George was talking about previously, because I think it's a good option to at least consider.
Sorry.
The paragraph, the language is in here, it's just not highlighted.
Oh, it is in here, sorry.
Yeah, the language is in the document, it's just not highlighted.
Yeah, and without my sentence that I added in.
And then
I guess
without
after
your
it's printed,
sentence, so maybe with that, could we go ahead and get your sentence in there as well?
Yep,
And
James
then-
is pasting it right now. There it is.
Okay, so what we're looking at, then, board, is, these proposed or suggested changes. Stemming from a previous conversation this board had. And, any board member here, if you have comments, questions, concerns, just please chime in. This is open for discussion, and, I know Georgia kind of took the lead last time. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but anyway, everyone should take a look at this. And this is the first time we're seeing the language in green.
And so one of the things that we had talked about last was this there's this idea that maybe, you know, a modification would have to go back to the tribes or the state, and I think that this, particular edit would allow to deal with the issue without actually having to do that, because I do believe that this is really kind of in pretty close, parallel with the direction from the tribes and the state was. The difference is this just adds the specificity of committee participation and then brings that into a way that the board could handling that kind of participation with either an upfront action by the board during a committee assignment where they could say, all right, we think that this will take 3 to 5 sessions, committee sessions. And then, you know, and then that board member would, or, you know, the board members on that committee would proceed with their work and then at that point where they would do their compensation submittals, they would put 3 to 5, however many of the 3 out of the 5, you know, actual committee sessions was needed, and then those would be paid as meeting, you know, the same as meeting compensation. That may not have been the most elegant way to try to describe this, but I thought it got us out of this issue in a pretty fast way that would also allow us to just take action.
So Haley, your sentence?
Yeah, so my sentence was put in, because the language in the compact with regard to preparation for meetings, reading materials, maybe meeting with committee members, and such, it's not really clear. So this sentence is essentially just saying that services in anticipation of a compensable meeting type, which are up above, in that first paragraph that we've already looked over, may be submitted by that individual board member for compensation approval by the board chair or vice chair. So kind of having a little bit of a check threshold, but also giving you all that authority to submit that request in for doing those services.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Ken?
I have to serve on this state medical and legal panels as do you. And if I recall correctly, you're allowed to prepare for meetings, but they have a four-hour cap. Is that something the board wants to consider?
What do you, by 4-hour cap, do you mean that you're compensated for the preparation time,
Yes.
or if it goes beyond 4 hours?
No,
Up
you
to.
are compensated for the 4 hours.
Okay,
Yeah, so anything beyond that would not be compensated for.
I think there's a lot of preparation time. for This meeting.
So is that a no?
I think that's a good suggestion.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying no.
No, I concur.
And that's a great point. It's pretty common in a lot of different boards or committees that, officials, agency members, attorneys serve on. So hopefully this language helps, and that a time limit can easily be inserted into that sentence.
Let's get it in there and let's see what it looks like.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question then.
Sure.
So your sentence in green there, anticipation of compensable meetings, does that mean we should estimate that before we go to the meeting and take it to the vice chair or the chair?
Yeah, so you would essentially like document your time. So if you were researching something for an hour,
I think it's gonna take about an hour.
yep, then you would turn that in as a request, yep.
Okay, yeah, understand. Thank you.
And I would suggest breaking it out too, so if you were, let's say, researching something and then meeting with a subcommittee group or something like that, then break those out. Could be on the same day, but just break it out.
Okay, yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
you guys can do billable time just like me.
That's what-
Yeah, and
I know that went
Yeah, that's
on.
awful.
do you do the quarter hour deal?
4 hours, I think, is
No,
appropriate.
for your billing, do you do the quarter hour?
Oh, it's 6.
The sixth?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, I've seen tribal attorneys do that.
Yeah.
So whatever language you suggest, let's get it in there if we look at it, because this is up for potential approval today if you.
I might be a little confused on things. Are you suggesting now that you would submit hours? Cause I was thinking that these would be like, a committee session is just like a meeting. And that's a $600 or a $300 amount.
Right,
Okay.
these are in anticipation of a compensable meeting.
Okay, all right.
So this is preparation essentially.
Well, let me ask this, as I read all this language, that's different than what Ken just suggested, and if we go with what Ken just suggested, most of this would be unnecessary, correct?
I was taking it as, he was saying the same thing. So it would be capped at 4 hours prep time essentially, so anything more than that would not be compensable. But any board member could submit a request up to 4 hours preparation time.
Up to, oh, what I read was, it was gonna be 4 hours.
No, up to.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, and it could be kind of used in any way, so, you know, if you're working, for example, researching budget, information for 3 days leading up to the next meeting, then all 3 of those days, if they're within 4 hours, can be submitted.
Where do we wanna put that in?
I say after compensable meeting type, comma, not to exceed 4 hours.
So if you put in 12 hours, you just donated 8 hours?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
I mean, I guess, how, would it be appropriate to just field the board members on how much time they are spending in prep?
Well, I mean, that's your proposed 4, so how does that, I mean, Roger likes it, but, maybe there's other thoughts here, so what, is 4 enough?
In my experience, it wasn't enough.
How about
I just
4,
went with it.
how about up to 4 without approval? Beyond that would require approval.
I like that, because I do think we need to document what we're doing.
Yes.
And hold ourselves accountable for that. I don't think the average meeting requires all of that, but we have run into some issues that really take a
Well,
lot
we're
of
still
time.
working on policies,
Yeah,
and we're still working on rules and documents, as
Right.
long as we're doing that, yeah, I get it.
I think it's a good suggestion.
So,
Let me work on some language right now.
okay,
I'll send it to James to just put in there.
okay,
And then if you guys wanna have a conversation about the paragraph before that,
okay,
right now, that would be
Yeah.
helpful.
okay. Paragraph, you mean the red?
The red, yeah.
Just the red, just the red.
Before we leave this screen here, I did have an issue with that.
Yeah, go ahead and go up a little more, okay.
No, right here's perfect.
Okay,
It said board members must spend at least 1.5 hours meeting with spending their staff to claim compensation. I think that's unnecessarily strict. I mean, we're gonna, if the governor summons Roger and I, that's not considered a compensation. Or like Roger spent a lot of time working with insurance agents. That's not going to be, so I think you gotta massage that to show that it's not, just OE staff. It could be independent of OE staff.
Yeah, I have a comment on there because I also was confused by that sentence. I just have a couple, like claim compensation for what? So is it for all compensable meeting types? What are you doing, is it for what you're talking about, getting summoned maybe by the governor or the tribes? Or having to meet with accounting firm? That's not necessarily clear. Did you have more to add with that? Cause I don't understand it either.
Oh, I didn't put that in there. That language is, about the 1.5, that's from, previous, that was what the enacted bylaw said. and I highlighted it, and I said, you should consider this. Which means nothing other than, hey, really, does that need to be like this? And, like, I think, that's all.
What if we took that out? What would change?
I don't think it has any effect on what we're trying to flesh out here.
Having it in there makes it confusing.
I can tell you the reason that you had the 1.5 hours previously is that, you were worried people would have short 10-minute meetings and then get compensation for them. And, that was back at that 170. Again, this was the board discussion on this topic. That's why you inserted that in there to say like you had to have some minimum standard to get compensation. And then for some reason, the board just limited that to the OE, a meeting with the OE staff. So, I thought it was odd. I highlighted it. I said, I think you should consider, this section. And maybe just at least eliminate that it's a meeting in association with OE staff, and then, if you want to keep or not keep that minimum, consider that also.
I have no doubt that everybody in this table, everybody in this board is gonna be honest about this, but we don't know about future board members.
So on the red where it says, the board may pre-approve a range of allowable committee compensation. Is that intended to be each time we create a committee? Or are we going to set a range?
Mr. Chairman, I did write that as like something for you to kick around here, okay?
Yeah.
And so if you don't like it,
I'm just trying to understand it.
this was to, promote the discussion, so, I'm not read anything here, right? But, the idea, just to let you know, and maybe you could better articulate what the idea was, is that, okay, board, we'd like you to form a budget committee and do this work. We think roughly that's gonna take, 4 committee sessions between now and the next time that we meet. And then that committee can go about its work, and they could then submit, in between 1 and 4, committee sessions, which would be compensated at $300 sessions, just like a board meeting, keeping everything at the board meeting. And then for the committee sessions, they would, include some prep time along with that. And I set a range because, that would allow some flexibility, but then it also has, a stopgap, like if it took more time, if they were larger, than expected, then after the fact, the committee can say, hey, you gave us 4 sessions, we use 6. I think you should.
Okay. Shane.
Yeah, so, I was just wondering how, so in the next section, 5.2, we'll stretch this out a little more, is board meeting compensation rates, and it uses the 1.5 hour language there. So I bring that up just in the idea of being consistent between this type of board meeting, where I think the other section 5.1 is other board meetings, not this meeting. They could be
Board and committee.
committee meetings, or like governor meetings, or tribal meetings, or whatever. So it seems like 5.1 is the other meetings.
We can say committee or other official meetings.
Correct, and so the thing is, just being consistent between the two. That if we change the 1.5 hour up above, we should change the 1.5 hour below.
Yeah.
So maybe read 5.2 in purple. Is kind of the same thing as what was above. And if we were happy with it, with how we prepared for this meeting, why would that be different than how we would prepare for a different meeting? Is where I'm going with it, just from a consistency process.
Yeah, Georgia, Roger, there's thoughts?
This, my question is, how would that work with Ken's suggestion for up to 4 hours of preparation? I mean, do we wanna use that language or this language, or how do they integrate?
So in the purple wording, it's kind of beyond the 4 hours, right? It's not up to. But it's saying you have to, just as part of our being of the board, we're expected to give certain amount of hours. In this case, 1.5 hours of prep time is gonna be pro bono on us. If we go over that, then we can be compensated for whatever time that is. It's unlimited right now. But maybe we need to clarify that to, as approved by the board, or to the 4 hours. 4 hours doesn't need to be approved by the board. And anything beyond that does.
We follow, maybe even wrong, but to follow what you're saying would result in, I think, 1.5 hours is on us. After 1.5 hours, up to an additional, say, 4 hours would be compensable if approved.
Or in this case, it says, the way I read it is, it's just, you get paid the board rate for a meeting.
Right, but the additional 1.5 would be on.
Right,
And
right,
then, so we would start the additional compensation then after that 1.5,
yeah,
up to an additional
Yeah.
4.
That's really doesn't make a lot of sense. Where it's written, compensated for a complete day, that means really nothing.
so that's the $300, right?
Was per meeting for a complete day. So I mean, you're gonna have to tie it back into the meeting rate.
Right,
Yeah.
which gets to an additional comment, I had to go back up to the red. So I was gonna suggest a range of allowable committee compensation. I would think maybe comma, not to exceed the meeting base rate of 300. Because you could be putting in for compensation for whatever, that would just say not to exceed the meeting base rate, which for our meeting base rate right now is what, 300?
Could it just instead say like, that would be equal to the meeting base rate? I mean, cause my idea was to try to steer away from having hourly. Billing or something that, because I understood that would be different enough from what the state and the tribes authorized that you probably need. Again, this is my understanding, but that would all of a sudden require maybe interaction with the state and the tribes. So the idea, which again, not as eloquent as it could be, I'm sure, was to just leave this in meeting blocks so that the work that you were doing, you know, at a committee level is gonna be authorized the way that a meeting would be authorized, which is consistent with what the state and tribes had in fact authorized. But again, just talking, not trying to interject anything here.
My suggestion would just be to talk about this, flesh it out, how it's, you know, best used for you all. These have to go out to public comment. These are policies and procedures. They have to go out to public comment, so the state and the tribe can talk all they want about this policy until the board actually fully approves them. So my recommendation would be to figure out something that works for you all right now.
And put it out.
Yes.
Haley, did you have other language you were gonna add?
Yeah, I sent James in there. Sorry, James.
You just replace
Yeah.
the. What you want.
Yep, go ahead, you can just copy paste it into the green. Oh, that's the green thing. Yeah. I like that, that's easy to understand. There's accountability. I like that too.
So still think we should strike that. Like you suggested, that must spend at least 1.5 hours. I don't think it adds anything.
Oh, up top,
Yeah, but that's just my opinion.
You want to just take the whole sentence out?
I'd strike for, I wouldn't just take it out.
you don't delete it, but it's straight through,
The whole sentence?
yeah. It should be around the whole structure. Hmm,
If I delete it.
it should just straight through, yeah.
I'm glad to see somebody else has trouble.
Is your track changes on?
Or was.
I did not try it.
This is a test, James.
There you go.
So, so back on the green, down to the green, board members may be compensated for up to 4 hours, compensated for what?
Like the rate, you mean? I think
Then we're not talking
The
about hourly
meeting
rate.
base
it
rate,
would be,
right?
yeah, the meeting base rate.
So they would, yeah, I think that's a good clarification. And just so that I want to touch base with everybody here, what I would envision on the compensation sheets that come into the office are days at $300 blocks with travel, right? Is it that, all right, that's just what, that is what I was thinking would be easy to manage. If you want to do something else, of course we can, but having it at the meeting block rate would be consistent.
So if I spend 4 hours getting ready for a meeting, I'm gonna get $300.
Well, according to that, up to, if you spend 1 hour. You gotta get. That's the other thing I was gonna ask, 'cause it says. It'd be compensated maybe for up to, so let's say it's 1 hour. That's what I'm trying to get at, is so. It's not an hourly rate, but are we gonna say $300 for 1 hour? $300 for 2, $300 for 3, $300 for 4?
That kind of to the language down below, what I like about the 1.5 is that's an expectation of us as board members. That we're gonna put forward at least 1.5 hours of our own time. And then if you go over that, then there's gonna be some level of compensation. And so to me, it's just incumbent of being part of this board that we are expected to have a certain amount of upfront time. That just is commitment we made to be here. And in this case, it's 1.5 hours, at least in 5.2. We can change that if we want to, but I like the idea that we're committed to being here. And that is, we're expected to, of our own time, commit X, in this case, 1.5 hours. I like the idea of that commitment before compensation kicks in. Not saying it's 1.5 hours, maybe it's 1 or maybe it's 4, I don't know.
Could you move your note off to the side? Sorry, that's perfect.
Ethan,
All right, so I'll be a little, I'll test this here. So if you you do your preparation for 1.5 hours, and that just goes on your, for tomorrow's meeting. Hypothetical tomorrow meeting, that's $300.
Yeah, that's part of your,
If you prepare 2 hours, then you're gonna get $600.
well, that's my question, too.
Okay.
That's part of my question here,
It's
too.
now, the way it would
Up to
look,
4 hours, yeah.
if I was the public, is that you're getting $300 for a half hour work. But
Yeah, and it gets to a budget responsibility too, that all of a sudden if we're paying $600 per meeting, then we didn't budget for that. So it changes the way we would budget for these meetings in that regard. So that's why I think there's an upfront ownership of us as board members to say, we're gonna put in the X amount, we're expected to put in X amount of time before compensation kicks in.
What are we calling a full meeting here? When as we say,
yeah, that
we
was,
start the meeting and end it, is that a meeting?
you never had that.
No, I'm asking, what's our meeting? I mean, is it full meeting an hour? 4 hours? What are we calling a full meeting?
Yeah, that's really the rub of the whole conversation, isn't it? It's getting to that number, because I think 1.5 hours isn't enough to give to your time to the board. I wouldn't feel comfortable getting paid a full meeting rate for that small amount of time. So I don't know what that number is. I guess that's what we have to get to, right? So do we donate a full amount of a meeting time before that kicks in, so that you have to donate 4 hours before? We've heard 1.5. Is anybody here for, it's like a question for time. But I think 1.5 is too small. This is public trust, and you want to feel like you're being a good public servant.
Do we have a number on what our meetings are? I mean, I don't know that.
1 to 5, is it 4 hours?
Yeah, 4 hours is what we typically allot for
Yeah,
almost every time.
because that's what I had in my head.
Not,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
since I started here, I've understood it that anything over an hour and a half was considered a full day at $300.
Hmm.
I'm not arguing, but I don't know where that is. I don't know where it says that.
Yeah, and that's in there right now, isn't it? Hour and a half.
Yep.
Down below, in the section right here.
That's a different hour and a half.
Yeah, that's a different.
I don't think that looks good to the public to get paid a full meeting rate for an hour and a half. I wouldn't feel comfortable communicating that in the community.
Well, let me throw this out. I mean, maybe force. I was thinking 3, but maybe it's 4, 3 or 4. We just do this in blocks of 4. Every 4 hours you get compensated for 1 meeting. And you have to document that.
Right, with approval. I think,
With approval.
I think that's key too, that we bake in our own accountability on this.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
so. If we said 4 and you only went 3, you don't get it. That's on you. So that's why I'm thinking 3 or 4 for the old blocks of, 3 hours. But you guys most recently have spent the most time. I don't know if that seems fair, but it's a thought.
Let me give you an example. This is back to the extraneous stuff. So if we set an hour. Yesterday morning at 8 o'clock, I got on the computer and started going through and saw these ticket assignments to get people added on and share files created and all this. So I worked straight through from 8 to 11, so I put in 3 hours. So if we were gonna say 4 hours, then it's like, well,
Right,
that was
that's right.
all for naught.
That's why, well, that's why I said 3 or 4. I was kind of thinking 3.
Yeah.
4-hour meeting for us, but what if we said for that kind of work in a committee assignments and other formal official assignments. 3-hour blocks.
I guess the way I was thinking of it is you look at not what you do in a day, but what you would do in a month, right? So if you're working on budget stuff over the course of the month of August and you post up 24 hours. I'm gonna use that number because it'll make it easy to do the math. You got in 24 hours, the first 4 you donate, right? That's your expected commitment, and then the 20 remaining that you get pre-approved and are documented would be equivalent to that many meetings in 4-hour increments. Does that make sense?
So in addition to just the monthly or the regular meeting compensation format we have set up, that then once a month, anyone working on committee assignments or other official business would submit their excess compensation
That's how I was
under
thinking.
the kind of formula you just mentioned.
Yeah,
So under,
I see.
or under George's suggestion, what would you submit?
so if it were 20 hours.
Yeah.
That would be equivalent to 5 meetings. Of 4-hour
Okay.
each. But that would have to get pre-approved and you'd have to document what you did with that time. And I think that would be rather exceptional too. I think we'll run into projects as we move through that might require that amount of time from some of us on these committees, but not routinely. So I like the fact of having accountability, but also we put in a certain amount of time that's donated for your good comment, but also, you know, you do get compensated for the really huge amount of time it can take on some of this stuff. I know you posted up a whole bunch. So. Just a thought.
That's a good, yeah, that's good.
That seems to me like it would satisfy what we owe to the public. It would satisfy what we need to provide in terms of accountability. But also give you that incentive if you're having to put that much time in to get this done. It does come with some compensation, so.
I could add a small wrinkle to that.
Of course. Haley.
It depends. Well, so on average, the board meets twice a month. I mean, recently it's been a few more, depending on what's going on, but typically it's twice a month. So a bi-weekly, submission might be more appropriate. Because then you would be devoting 4 hours for the first 2 weeks and 4 hours for the second 2 weeks of the month. And so maybe that's more palatable for the public than just 4 months for the entire month.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
I think that starts to sound a lot like employees. Now you're doing bi-weekly pay periods, you're doing hourly.
It's just submission of it, not necessarily that they would be paid out bi-weekly. I mean, that's however you guys wanna figure that out, right, with your financial personnel.
So that would be just with submission and approval. The payment would still be
Right.
a monthly thing.
It could be, however you guys wanna decide that, but for, yeah, record keeping, it would be like 2-week time blocks, right? So your 4-hour threshold, anything past that would only go for the 2 weeks, and then it would start again. So it's not like you're building up a whole bunch of time throughout the entire month, it's 2-week time blocks.
Speaking of wrinkles, so we're saying 4 hours is a meeting and we get $300. If we just look at those numbers, that's $75 an hour. So rather than try to do all the other gyrations, just assume that the additional compensation over and above, let's set a number. You know, 2 hours you donate regardless. And then beyond that, document it, $75 an hour. You do 1 hour and 75, it's, because it's $75 an hour for a meeting. That's what the numbers come out to, we can make it more or less, and we could go less at the end, if you just set an hourly. I wouldn't go beyond that, because that's the, I wouldn't go beyond 75, but you could go less, just to be fair.
So it should say maybe time spent exceeding 4 hours per month. Instead of just 4 hours. Or Haley's suggestion, for half a month.
I like the idea of keeping it simple because whoever's in the office on this end has to keep track of this, right? And so I don't want to have a member of staff having to go, okay, they donated 4 divided by 2 times 10 on the second month with the ending in Y. I don't know, it's like, what's the easiest way to do this, so that whoever's having to add this up doesn't have a tough time of it. So what you recommended would be the easiest, but then we still need to decide what that donated time is it 4 hours or is it 8? Right? Getting to your question, is it 4 hours once a month, or basically you donate your meeting time to some degree? And then anything in excess of that, it's compensated.
Furthermore, I'm just talking about the records keeping end of it. You said document that time. I don't know what that means and what that would look like, if that would be part of, I assume, the spreadsheet that has all your compensation on it, and I mean, you would wanna have, if you want some documentation, which you said that, you know, that would, you need to figure out what that's gonna look like, try out to put it in here, and that would come in as part of the submission. You know, and then that, because all those go in as part of your, you know, the administrative records for the meeting, the board action, and then for going to payroll services. For
Okay.
So we've got meeting prep, committees, and the ubiquitous other official meetings. What else? I mean, those are the 3 things we're talking about, right? So the meeting prep, that's what the hour and a half talks about. It's assuming for just regular meeting prep. Hour and a half is donated. Beyond that, then what's it say? Go down. This, yeah. Let me say the clear. So we gotta clarify the complete date. I don't like that either. So let's start with that. So we've got, those are the 3 categories. Right now, what do we want that to say?
Meeting base rate.
What does this mean? Preparation time exceeds 1.5 hours. Then the board
No, it's just the board
member,
Yeah, it should say member.
board member,
Yes,
and the purple is his board, so board member.
So I think too, that up to was supposed to be after meeting, that shouldn't be a new sentence, it should be just there. Preparing for a meeting up to 1.5 hours of time.
All right, let's focus on this. So if we spend 2 hours and document that, you're gonna get $300. If we go with this one,
Correct. And that's where, in my mind, we change that 1.5 to 4. That would be more equitable, I believe, from both sides. That way, if you do put in 4 hours of prep and we have a 4-hour meeting,
so beyond 4, so get 5, so you already spent 4, so you're getting compensation,
Yeah.
you go to 5.
so, and I hate to, put it on us that we're gonna, the 3.5 hours, that's on us.
Yeah.
But it seems really, it doesn't seem right that at 2 hours, we get double pay.
Yeah.
For full compensation for 2 hours plus the meeting.
So let's say 4, donate the 4, and then someone goes an extra 6. We just stick with, or 7, or 8, or 10. $300. Remember, this is just regular meeting prep. We're not on the committee assignments or other formal business. I'm just trying to work it out here. This is regular meeting prep.
my sense it should just be, like, one time 300. I mean, it just bothers me that we start charging 3 and 3 and 3.
Okay.
And that's just me, I mean, I can
That's
see
fine.
the argument of doing that, but it just doesn't seem quite
But
right.
just regular meeting prep here.
One,
That's fine. So is it 1.5 where we're at, or do we go up to 4?
So Ken, are you then thinking all meeting time is just donated? Is that what you're saying? All meeting preparation time.
yeah, preparation up to 4, is what you're suggesting?
Well, it's at 1.5. There's on the table is 4, so it could be anything. It could be 2, could be 3.
What I'm
Could be
saying is
10.
you work 5, you get 300, you work 10, you still get that same 300.
Yeah.
You don't get 300 plus 300 plus 300.
No, right,
Right.
yeah.
Regular meeting prep here.
So you're making somewhere between 37 and 75. Anywhere between a 4-hour commitment to an 8-hour commitment.
So just change 1.5 to 4, and that's the other thing.
Anybody else call?
That's a first. That's a first.
This isn't quite as cool as it is down here, and I'm noticing it.
All right, regular meeting prep. Okay,
And I would be more comfortable if said the board member may be compensated rather than is compensated. Just
and do we want to say anything about documentation?
You guys went the other route with that previously. Just to let you know, there was an earlier version of the compensation that had a may in it. And the former, work member Walter Bell in particular, wanted that to be it is.
Okay, well, we're still,
You can do what you want,
yeah, we're
just to let you.
discussing.
just a reminder.
Thank you.
Would it work to just like use that language and then define like the meeting types as a regular board meeting, a committee session, you know, and then just put it all in one section so that it's maybe a little simpler?
Let's get all the language figured out first, and then we'll decide if we want to combine.
Sure, sorry about that.
No, that's
I
fine,
need to do right.
because you may end up being right there, but let's figure this out first. So this is the regular meeting, this is not committee assignments. So if you're have committee assignments, we need to clearly in documentation, separate what it is we're being compensated for. Regular meeting, that is one thing, but if it's a committee assignment, you would be tying your work directly to whatever those assignments are.
I'm okay with that.
That'd just be a separate paragraph that would refer to compensation for board assigned committee.
I think we'll go up, well, we can, so let's assume, so are we at least a solid head nod for that for now? Okay, well, let's go up. Now we're talking about committee assignments and, or I'll just, I don't know what language you want to use, but other official meetings? Official approved meetings, okay. All right, so that's what we're talking about. All encompassable meeting types, regular board meetings, special board meetings, board committee meetings.
So if
board
we-
meetings.
If that followed the same pattern, the first 4 hours, just use you had 20 hours, the first 4, you're not compensated for. So would you would you feel it would be best then to just be compensated once for the remainder of the 16 hours?
I wasn't suggesting committee meetings were not to be,
Okay,
compensable.
I just want to make sure if I suggest something,
No,
it's
no,
not out in left field, so I'm looking to you for some comments. Okay, so if it's committee work,
Approved committee.
approved committee work that you would document, because I think that's important. Would that be in 4-hour increments? Or no? What does everybody think?
I'm saying not,
You're saying not?
no.
Okay,
Well, I agree with that too, because just go back to examples like this weekend, you and I pounded out that letter. I mean, I worked 2 hours here, 2 hours there on Saturday, 2 hours Sunday morning, 2 hours Sunday afternoon, there was no, it was when I had an opening that I could sit down and focus and crank through and do some research.
And I don't consider that preparation, that's actual committee work.
Yeah, and so, that's what I'm saying, but I'm saying, how do we then say, okay, is that a day, or do you have to put in a certain amount of hours, or what, so.
So that kind of comes back to what Clayton was saying, do the 4 hours, and then if it exceeds it, $75 an hour. If it's committee work.
That would sure make it easy for the staff in the office to calculate it. I like that because I keep thinking of who's on your end in the building that has to write this out. You want it to be easy for everybody. So how does everybody else feel about that?
To clarify, the 4 hours, exceeding 4 hours in the month.
They'd still be eligible for the $300 day compensation, and then the time over that would be $75 an hour.
So I guess are we calling like the committee meeting an equivalent to a board meeting, and it's $300 for the committee meeting,
Stuff like that.
and then prep time for that in front of, at an hourly rate in front of that? Or is all of it an hourly rate? The committee meeting and the prep.
I wasn't thinking the prep time, the board regular prep time would be what we just described below.
Yeah.
What we're talking about now is just committee meeting.
Well, I'm thinking the committee, you have a committee, you're discussing one issue typically. And I'm comfortable with going down that hourly rate, just troubles. Because it looks like you're more of an employee than a board member. I think, you should get the same rate for a meeting, for a committee meeting, as you do for a regular member that's pre-approved. But, like what you described, I see that as a meeting. Time you two spend working that letter, I don't consider it prep time. Even though it's kind of a hybrid, you're actually doing stuff in a hybrid way in your meeting.
Well, I guess I don't want to get crossways with our public disclosure process by calling them meetings because they're not. Because they're not open to the public.
Yeah, it's just.
So I don't want to get
That's true, yeah.
T-boned with that language.
However, though, any documents you rely on in bringing to a regular meeting, can be public, and can be requested by the public. So they are a form of a public meeting. They just aren't open with the public because there's no quorum. But any information that you rely on or any documents that are produced from it, do need to be accessible to the public if they're requested.
And generally, no decisions are being made in that committee meeting because that's being brought to the board. Yes, for decision.
What you call a committee session, and a session could be people working together, working alone. A session is less targeted toward meeting,
Right.
right? And you could treat committee sessions. You have the same compensation arrangement that you're describing for the board meeting. You just call it a committee session, so it's obviously standing out as something different. But you could use the same rules for time spent, cumulative time spent per session. I'm just idea session.
So that's kind of just to clarify too, the language that I chose in this was services in anticipation of a compensable meeting type. I was thinking of a regular board meeting. And so services could be, your committee work groups or your sessions plus the whatever research or drafting you do for those. Because the reality is those are likely gonna be stated on the record in a public meeting. So that's a way to kind of incorporate everything, but we would have to definitely massage this section.
Well, I expect that in the long run, a lot of this is gonna fall off and move. But right now, a lot of this is important. So for me, especially looking to you guys who spend a lot of time, say, what if we, trying to keep it simple, different approach. We just say anything over 4 hours or more is equivalent to a meeting, call it good. That's additional compensation.
I think that makes the most number of people comfortable, including the public, right?
Before we leave Ethan's session. Okay, Ethan's thoughts on sessions. I'm wondering if we could say the following, pencil, blah, 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 board committee meetings and sessions.
Yeah, why not?
Go up, First paragraph.
Wait, one says board.
Board committee meetings. That's it. Yeah.
I would say,
And we'll have your
sessions. And then after board work group meetings and sessions, or you could just. Probably just, be okay, just to put it after work group. Not do it the first time.
Well, and I was gonna ask, it says regular board meetings.
That needs to get
We
out.
need to strike that,
Yeah.
correct, because that's in 5.2.
Yes.
Straight regular has to.
June, why don't you do this instead?
Huh.
Okay, so do board committee meetings. Sessions, like common sessions. And work groups. And then delete board. I'd like, yeah, delete all that after. So board work group meetings and sessions. Yeah,
And scratch regular board meetings, so.
up at the top.
Well, that would keep it simple. I like simple.
We could say three.
I want to delete that comment after
Four,
regular board
three,
meetings.
and then the three, then you-
And the space
It's on
after.
4 hours. Say three.
All three of those, or take out the word regular.
Spent the whole one.
So, three?
If it isn't regular board meetings, describe below.
That's.
That's, yeah, we're kind of transitioning 5.2 to be about just regular board meetings. Yeah.
It should just say board meetings.
Huh?
It should just say board meetings.
Yeah,
You want me to?
Well, I think that gets where Ethan was leading, can we?
yeah,
I don't wanna condense them, I want this to be one thing. I guess I should say, I think this should be one thing, and the board meeting should be one thing.
Yeah.
For clarification.
Under that arrangement, could we consider this being like under?
Well, that's where I was.
Or,
going.
I guess the reorder, it would make maybe more sense.
Yeah, this would, board meetings would be 5.1.
Lead in, yeah, and then
The other
other
are
would be right after that.
I agree.
Then you should say the following also are compensable.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, I think, well, if we wanna keep the distinction, which it sounds like you do,
I mean, I think it's important when you're looking at what the responsibility is to the public in those different types of meetings.
oh yeah, I'm definitely throwing in the towel here on the combining them, but if we can reorder, that'd be cool.
Should we also delete special board meetings, which I'm assuming is a closed executive session?
I think so.
And
If
the
you
board
wanted to have
hearings.
special board meeting, I mean, can you just call it board meeting, because it's an executive board meeting, really is what they are typically called, right?
What I'm saying is to delete it, because those are things that need to be actually noticed to the public. Like a board hearing needs to be noticed, a closed executive session needs to be noticed.
Hearing,
Yeah,
see, this is getting complicated, yeah.
so it's like,
You wanna separate the noticed meetings and the other meetings?
I think if the board wants to go with 5.1 as being other compensable type meetings, then we have to take out what would be considered a regular board meeting.
And then we probably need to add that down below.
Correct, yeah, like including,
All right, so. All on that, and so. This committee work compensation, committee, other special, other official meetings. Um, 3 hours or more.
Yeah.
3 hours or more of work will. Hearings and special board meetings.
Yes, that was board committee.
Board meeting
Yes, start with it.
as part of the special.
Yeah.
So then down here you would say. Board meetings.
You add in the word notice. Capitalize.
You're not saying. Yeah. No.
Need to put an N in between hearings and special.
Is it possible on that first line of the paragraph right below there where it says the state and the tribes adjusted compensation to just say said? Set. Said. Instead of adjusted. Or established or some other word that you like better. You wanted to like keep track of the history of it, I would say you should put no. And put that it used to be 475, but I don't think that that's necessary.
Well, then, as long as you have that history, like that document, in case the public requests it.
It's all archived. The iterative meeting docs like this in between are all also archived.
Maybe I could, accept the changes and we can look at it without all the formatting.
Plus Shane, I still would try to get you to put board meetings in front of other. So this would be section 5.1.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
can we go up to 5.1? Yes, I had a few little grammatical things there, especially with the red one. But the very first one, the following are other, instead of saying also, but other.
Other,
Yeah, other. Okay, and then down in the red, I was thinking maybe upon scratch formation and upon receiving an assignment from the board, the board member is eligible for compensation equivalent to the board base, to the meeting base rate. It's awful wordy.
eligible.
Yeah. Yeah, just scratch that line out. Then compensation at the base rate, meeting base rate.
I would think, like to say, on receiving a committee assignment.
Yeah.
For everything that's in that section, you can actually accept the track changes because it was a proposed section. You know, like the things that you just changed, not all of it, but I think if you, actually, if you just do that and accept it all, and then, you know, maybe we can highlight it. But maybe folks can read it then.
I'm gonna just read this one too.
Yeah,
Now we can see it a little better.
you know, when it goes out to notice, we'll have to designate that that's new language. Yeah, that paragraph, but
For the green section, Roger, Ethan, Georgia,
What's that to me?
green section. We were gonna talk about. Did that go? Stated at the meeting base rate for anything over 3 hours.
up there where it says upon receiving and Ken added, you could also say, or work group assignment. If we've got work groups up above this, right?
Subcommittee or worker.
Yeah. Figure that out there, but
So after, at the end of the sentence, do you want to put in exceeding 3 hours, you know?
Well, of the green,
Oh, I didn't know, I thought we could go there to replace. You know,
oh, that, we could just do it there and then get rid of the what's in green.
yeah,
Is that what you're thinking?
yeah.
Go ahead and- so,
So after meeting base rate,
Here,
yeah, that exceeds 3 hours. That one. That doesn't make sense, does it?
I think we're just trying to say,
yeah, it still doesn't make sense. We do something.
what do you mean?
Yeah,
Maybe like upon receiving maybe your work group assignment and performing work that exceeds. So you have to receive the assignment and do the work that they're be eligible. Oh, maybe not.
Well,
Never mind. I didn't work through that.
it says the board member is eligible to receive compensation.
You get into
expected to see.
performing work, you know, what is the word, what is not work? And, you know, I think we're gonna have to rely on our board member to do something.
Ultimately, yes.
They are eligible.
Yeah.
So where it says, the board member is eligible to receive compensation, maybe, for time exceeding 3 hours.
This part out.
yeah.
And then documentation. How do you wanna work in documentation, and what should the documentation be?
I thought it should have the date and the work that was done.
What are we submitting, just an email?
Yeah. Submit an email to the board.
And just do yeah, I mean, would that work for documentation?
My document, my work for Crow as the subject, the date and the hours spent.
Do you do it by email though?
I'm kind of old fashioned, so I do it by email, plus I also send them a copy in the mail. I don't know that you have to do that, it's just the way it works.
So if we're comfortable with email, then the only question is, what does it need to include? Topic, time, dates, hours,
Yes.
blood type. Do we want to spell it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that first sentence, maybe. Documentation will include date, hours rendered, and services,
Topic,
and description of services.
topic, yeah.
Topic or
And description.
Put that into the name of the committee.
Put that down for one.
Yeah, what I throw out usually like one or two words, record review, brief writing or something like that. It's very, very simple.
Ooh,
Wow.
so you guys who put the most time in, is that seem fair?
In this submission section, we should add documentation and be appended to the.
Couldn't hear you.
When we get to the submission section, we need to just remember to add that the documentation should be appended to the compensation sheet.
It's in the safety, it's being documented. Yeah, I can understand too.
Name of board member. Right.
Well, the whole staff, and staff and chair and vice chair.
Mhm.
Chair or vice. And
Seem fair? And I know, I don't want to put you guys on the spot too much, but if it's not, say so. You guys have done most of it.
Well, I think we all have, on different topics at different times, and there's gonna be others coming up that will be you guys.
So you got 4 hours down there in that green, and you've got 3 hours up above. See it right above.
Or on down.
it's an option.
Get confused.
so should we say this should be 3 then?
Yeah,
So
Ken,
maybe I'm getting ahead of the discussion here, but when it said documentation will be sent to OE staff, shouldn't that be OE budget personnel?
Oh, yeah.
And then it says board chair and vice chair, do we just want to include?
Yeah.
The board?
The whole
I'm asking. They're gonna see. They're gonna see the documentation?
It's gonna be appended to the submission, and it comes out at the public meeting.
We'll see it in the monthly.
I mean, I'm not saying you don't need to have that too, we can do that, but no matter what, they'll get to see it when they approve it.
And then it comes down to the chair and the vice chair's decision to approve that.
Well, let's see. The documentation we sent you, does that mean, are we sending it for approval or just documentation?
Well, I don't know why it would need to be sent anyway, except for to the budget personnel, because like Shane, somebody said, it's gonna come to the board for approval anyway, so.
Yeah, cause I don't think that you're sending it to us for approval.
So to me, the vice chair and chair, it's an awareness. It's strictly for an awareness
Oh,
that you're seeing all this time coming in, you know, what's going on, why it's taking more time than we thought it might. It's not a decision point for the chair or the vice chair, it's just an awareness.
Yeah.
Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but I agree, it's not for approval. It's documentation.
So could you zip down to section 5.5? And, yeah, at the.
You may say. Budget, what is it, budget personnel?
Yeah, and then add the, another sentence that says,
you don't need that format provided by OE now either, any longer. For compensation, period. Put a period after compensation.
I think that you're still filling out the spreadsheet, right?
No, we're just sending in an email documenting what we did.
Okay.
I use a spreadsheet. Only because it makes it, for me, it makes it simple.
Cause I space those in.
Correspondence?
That would, along with the documentation of committee and work group compensable activities.
So the regular board meetings, we've gone away from, I mean, unless I'm
Yeah,
mistaken. You simplified that for us. And.
Yeah, we try to just,
We approve something that you submit, you show us. So we were actually filling them out, but we're not now doing that. You're doing that for us.
you have to tell us something if it's outside of a regular board meeting, because we can't.
Right, but this is also talking about regular board meetings. Right? Am I reading it wrong?
Yes. Let's, I'm just saying.
The board meetings for other.
Well, what I'm saying is we're not doing that for regular board meetings.
So you delete the,
The board
number 4.
You're right.
Yeah.
Sorry, note for, after the word for, and delete regular O, the first of that sentence there.
What?
Regular O.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, okay. I keep the feeling.
Cool.
The next two paragraphs, every OE should probably be OE budget personnel.
Can be, but personality.
I think we needed that documentation when you do, like, if we do, we subject ourselves to an audit or are subjected to an audit, we need to have all of that specified. So I like that.
So just a question. And just. Done and it's all the stuff we're doing for the additional compensation. Is there any reason to make a footnote that explains why we're doing it? Or would it not be useful?
No, I mean, the, whatever policies are adopted is the explanation, essentially.
Okay.
One comment, very end, we'll back up. Keep going down. Okay, I think board compensated will be reported annually by OE budget personnel. The very last sentence.
Yeah.
Here?
Reported annually by, oh, there you go. Oh, there you go.
All right, going once, going twice, sold.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that the right IRS form? 1099?
You get a 1099. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
report
don't-
on a 1099.
That's what I thought, yeah,
I don't know what the actual reporting form is.
Say to the IRS.
yeah.
It's
There you go.
definitely,
On the form. Doesn't matter.
isn't it a W-9?
Okay, there was,
I guess it's also reported to the state.
And say
Yeah,
IRS and the state.
yeah, well,
Is that for the state?
you should probably spell it out, Internal Revenue Service and the Montana Department of Revenue.
Exactly, see it.
It is when falls with the taxes.
everyone okay if I accept all this and we can look at it without the
Yes.
comments? That section is good. Good. This one.
That's what we're doing now, right? Right. Yeah.
What's your question?
No, I just said, I was wondering why we're questioning it, because we're already doing it.
Being transparent.
Not this month, just as an update, it's been delayed to figure this out. So, I don't know if you want to modify that to give a little wiggle room.
Accepted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. You wanna deal with this stuff? Or maybe what we can do now is accept this section and I'll flip it. Because we're gonna do this 5.1 and 5.2, we're gonna switch. Yep. Just a little bit. Everyone okay with that? That's good.
You know, like highlight what's been changed here, just so that we know what to notice. We have to,
You just notice all of section 5. I think that would make most sense.
Yeah.
Just do it by section, yeah.
Before you go, you have 2 periods after the word rate there.
Fix that without a glare, just delete notice from there. And put it after the special meetings. Do notice to the public.
And then go to the green section there. So. Did I miss something? So, says for compensation approval by the board chair and vice chair. That we were just doing.
Yeah, that needs to, the last sentence needs to be changed. Due for time exceeding 3 hours. Yeah, and then the stuff after the, general phone, you deleted them. There you go.
Oh. At the meeting, and it says, what my reading says. And it says 3 hours for services in anticipation of a compensable meeting. Is that no longer needed?
Yeah, that's fine.
Or service, get rid of that.
Yeah, I'm just at for services in anticipation of a compensable meeting type, is that already covered about?
Yeah. It is.
So this can all go away.
Yeah. So if we take action on this. Now we're taking action to send it out for public comment.
Correct.
Okay.
The last one, we did in the last paragraph, if that's what Sue talked about. No, just the board. Yeah. Then that last paragraph can just be about documentation rather than.
Yeah. So is it, necessary now to have the language, the board may pre-approve? The range as well, that's it.
I said get rid of it. I mean, because if you do
Yeah.
compensation types were larger than expected, I mean, you're already accounting for it exceeding 3 hours.
Yeah,
But all of that now. Yeah, wow.
yeah. I'll put this word.
Well, 5-2 and 5-1.
Yeah, just ready to do that. If people are doing that.
Well, that's everything, right?
Let's see. I think I'll do this. Yeah, put this one. That one thing.
I thought they were. At one point they were.
If I were to do this. No, they're not. Oh. Huh. There we go.
So that was my comment on this one. The state, it follows the state of Montana, but the state of Montana underneath their schedule has a description and an example of that that makes it a lot clearer. I was struggling with greater than 3 hours between. So I just axed those and either, I mean, when you go back and read the state thing, then it's a lot.
I thought that meant you could have a leisurely breakfast.
Second reference.
Newspaper, have some friends after 3 hours. 3 hours.
I don't know if it's worth adding in the state language or not. I don't know. Do you have the state per diem schedule handy? I think it was in your email, Ethan. Well, the table's in somewhere else. It's cross-referenced, I think.
Yeah.
As well. Oh. Yeah.
Well, while I'm looking that up, should we be saying Montana instead of state? There, I mean, I gotta claim California rates.
Well,
No, I'm serious. I mean, I think it just takes Montana. Unless you're comfortable with state.
I think it's implicit, you know.
Okay, that's.
Which document are you working on, James? Is this the one when
This is in today's meeting in the we share drive in.
we put this information in here?
Yeah.
If we're following the state policy, it's actually 12:01 AM for the morning now. Yeah.
So New York has the highest travel policy of any state in the US.
Okay, New York it is.
Second is California. Third, surprisingly, is Huntsville, Alabama.
So. Does the, so just a question, does the bylaws have sort of a preamble or introduction that sort of says these by, talk about the board, the state and the tribe, and if it does, it's already covered, we'll leave that.
There should be something like that, yes. I believe there is.
And if it does, then I think we're copacetic.
Yeah, as I recall it, it cross references the state per diem schedule somewhere in there.
It's probably also says state of Montana somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I was reaching for. Something preamble up front that says state of Montana, there says fifty tribes. It doesn't, it should,
There's a purpose, section.
good. So we're ready to take this to the public?
Well, what have we decided on Roger's change?
Oh.
I also need public comment after that. I mean, I'm fully with Roger. I never understood what that meant.
I struggled and struggled.
Well, I mean, the language that brings that in there is supposed to help explain it.
Should we say 12 AM?
Just here,
It's supposed to be 12 too.
yeah, I'm just gonna push this onto one page so we can see it.
Yes.
So we.
Great.
The written was already in there.
Yeah.
This is what even was added.
Okay, that's new.
This is new.
Okay.
So you would strike the purple and add the written.
Can we change the and to 2 at those times, 12:01 AM to 10 AM?
Well, maybe let's
It's
just-
then or then, otherwise
Nothing in between.
you're done.
Yeah, so
No eating at 11,
then it's not a leisurely meal.
Pardon?
It's not a leisurely meal.
you got a minute.
You're on
1
schedule.
minute.
You got 1 minute.
You only get 2 minutes.
That cheese stick, get on the road. Chop, chop.
So is this yellow? This is a state language? Okay.
I mean, the whole thing is from the state travel policy. This yellow is additional language brought in if you want to have it to help explain what the more than 3 hours in travel status means.
Editorial is really necessary to capitalize very specific.
This was a copy and paste, just so you know.
Oh, I know.
Okay, and, I think at present, this is what, OE does for travel. You guys might remember you deliberated between the federal, which is what the tribes use, and state travel policies. And we landed on this for. I think it started because the state, the tribes, in one of the letters about what board members are gonna be paid, cited to the state travel policy for the, and,
That big one, editorial change.
Yeah,
I don't like that because could you take out the very in front of specific?
we change it to ultra specific.
Precisely specific.
Is the tribes travel policy better than this? Can we use that instead? This seems,
Well,
I have questions. What happens if I come in at 6:01 instead of 6:02?
yeah, well, we could get a copy of it and look at it, and you could decide if you want to pull from it.
Sit in
It's
your
gotta
car
be
for
more
5 minutes,
sensible.
listen to the radio.
Don't you dare come back and do it.
Should I accept these deletions?
We got good with language.
It's just, wow, what it is.
Just telling you, having worked with that system for a lot of years, they were pretty particular about it too. Yeah,
So pretty particular or ultra?
ultra, I think is actually, it's good correct, Ken.
Super.
I'm just thinking whoever wrote this original language would not be fun at parties. I mean,
Well, and part of me is wondering about the 15 miles. I mean, that's not very far.
What is your headquarters, this office? So, right,
Do you wanna see the tribal policy? I mean, we
it's
can-
gotta
we
be
can get a
better
copy.
than this. I would like to see if there's something that's more reasonable.
So the question is, when and how do we wanna see that? And do we hold off on sending this to public until you do?
It would slow up the whole works. I don't
Well-
want to slow up the whole works.
Right,
Well, I think part of I think we defaulted to the state one because certainly for Ken and I, that's all we can apply for. We can't go for federal rates unless, I guess we could if we changed everything. I guess never thought about that.
But this is our policy. though.
I know, that's what I was saying.
Would you like
So
to have a better?
I kind of think that was our original default rationale for using this. But
Well, looking at that closer, I mean, if I'm in Helen, and I wanna have breakfast, she's told me I have to get up at 6:59 to have breakfast.
well, just if you want to pay for, if you want not enough money to actually pay for your breakfast, it could be part of your reimbursement.
Just so you know, there's nothing open that early in Helena.
I was gonna say, I haven't got up at 6:59 in the last 15 years.
So it's not that you have to eat during that time, it's that you have to just be in travel status. So like you'd just be driving for more than 3 hours between, or at the meeting or whatever for more than 3 hours between 12:01 AM and 10 AM. You don't even actually have to eat. You just get money for the meal if you're in travel status for that period.
Wow, encouraging home habits.
Yeah.
So maybe it said this means leave no later than 6:59 AM for morning meal compensation. So just morning meal. Yeah. And 6:02 PM for the evening meal compensation.
you better get to McDonald's at 6:58.
I don't like that. I just think that's onerous. It doesn't make sense to me.
Is that what you're saying, Ken?
It says allowance right above that. I don't really care, or maybe change.
Yes, leave no later than. So it's not when you eat, but when you enter into travel status. I have less issue with the arms and the view with the minds.
Yeah.
That. So we've got field work in St. Ignatius. That's more than 15 miles away than you're paying so much. For every day. And to me, that's just part of your daily work.
Well, yeah, that means every day George does his daily job, you should be getting compensated for a
right.
whole bunch of meals, right? Cause there's
We
massive
actually went through
windshield.
that issue, yeah.
Well,
They get through, I mean, there's more discussion on travel status to show that it's not part of your career.
But it says you must be in travel status.
Ours is your, considered your job duties, part of your job, so it's not travel
Okay,
time. Unless you're actually going to a meeting, that you're sent to, and then you get paid in quarters
gotcha.
for the day, instead of, you don't have that time limit, it's just, you get so much for each quarter.
Sure.
Yep. So do we need to define travel status? It's not already defined.
We have discussion of travel in the personnel policies. And what the parameters of travel are.
There.
Hmm?
Would you say that again?
We have discussion on the agenda of the travel policy and what the parameters are, but they're in the personnel policies, not in the bylaw.
Okay. The question is, what do we do with this right now? And, I mean, if we go out to public with this and want to change it again, we go to public again, so we can either do it now or wait until we do more review.
Just don't see that paragraph really adds anything. I mean, could you go back up? I mean, the very first. The board can be compensated for mileage, lodging, and related to board business. That kind of says it all.
So let's just delete it, right?
I just say delete it.
You can also say, further, further description of, board mileage, lodging and per diem rates. Is contained within personnel policy section, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Let's do that.
I like that.
That's pretty typical in bylaws to do.
It went from regulatory language to
Let's do that. Where do you want to put it?
personal language.
Yeah, where do you want to put it?
Just right after that first sentence.
Good.
Yeah,
Then delete that below, yeah.
I think that the sentence here, that. Where it says if meeting meals are not provided in meetings. And any meeting related travel occur. For more than 3 hours in the time periods listed below, board members are eligible to claim the meal compensations as. Per the state per diem schedule. And that is more clear to me than including the state.
That's what we think. That's wrong, isn't it? I was trying to get it out of the list. Is that right? Yes.
Always be.
yes.
Okay, I was correct the first time. Keep messing.
That should be,
Like a struggle bus.
that should be OE and personal policy.
Sorry, what?
I think it should be OE personal policies and personal policies should be capitalized.
And then
So
Take this all, everything below out.
the O and E policies cover board.
It all.
What was that?
The O and E policies cover the board members as well.
I think it's weird, but okay.
It's a travel policy that's implemented by everybody essentially though.
No, back up. Where were we?
So we're literally.
So that sentence, so you said that you changed the board may be compensated for mileage lodging per day and related to board business, period. There you go.
We can just say as described. Yeah.
No, you can't, no, you have to put a comma after business and make that a literal.
No, yeah.
And then delete that. Right? But are we keeping all this?
So,
Yes.
Eden pointed out that last paragraph, does that have any bearing on?
The, if meeting meals, that one?
Yeah,
Well, what if the meals are provided and they're really horrible? Like, you know, I'm pretty much a vegetarian. What if I have a choice to
Just
ham and
put
steak?
quotes around provided.
Don't want rubber chickens. Blue gravy.
Blue gravy.
Is that supposed to be at meetings instead
like
of
steak.
and? Like, if meeting meals are not provided at meetings and any meeting related travel? Is it,
Yeah,
okay. Sorry, just trying to read it.
wait, if meeting meals are not provided and meetings and any meeting related travel occur, it should be an and.
Then, okay, just, it really reads weird.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, you're putting the clause in here. Meeting meals are not provided. And.
How about just delete the at meetings,
Right, yeah,
delete meetings now also.
Did you put suitable in front of meeting?
how about quality? I was gonna say quality.
Quality.
Ultra quality.
Wait, what?
Or
don't think you're.
edible.
You just wanna delete provided and have suitable? You wanna delete provided and have suitable?
No,
No, just,
we're just,
I would just say appropriate or suitable or something, so, you know. If I'm in a conference and they're serving hamburgers. You can say, no, I'm not gonna eat.
What are you gonna do?
I mean, that gets into preference. Yeah,
As far as you're concerned, that meal's not provided.
just leave it and leave it to our best judgment. How's that?
Or write the word adequate right there. Adequate meeting meals are
That
not
would
provided.
be adequate.
Acceptable?
No, it's too subjective. I'd go with adequate, a little less subjective. I mean, that covers quantity and quality.
You wanna throw that in?
Yeah.
Adequate.
Okay, adequate. Okay with that, Haley?
what?
You okay with that?
Sure. And this is what you guys want, so.
Does that mean we delete the highlighted state section?
We delete
Yes.
this whole thing, right?
You ever tried to?
Don't you wanna leave the times in there?
I will.
I think it.
There's no options.
Huh?
Leave that out.
I think you should leave the time in there, or. And delete the yellow highlighted section.
Yeah.
I think delete that 3 hours before stuff.
That's exactly.
That really? We did it.
Before we get completely off, it doesn't need to necessarily go in here, but I had a note, we have over the course of the last couple of years set other committees. You know, we focused on the one here recently, but I don't know if we kept track of it. We need to keep track of, so we need a formal tracking of committees that we establish so that we have an actual, we maintain a list of those committees and committee assignments. We should do that.
Right now, it's just through meeting minutes.
Yeah, so if we have others, we should develop a list and approve that. at some point, but right now, I don't think we do, so maybe some future meeting, if we can get those down and then if, so, and if any of those have kind of faded away, we can reestablish them. So at that point, we take action to reestablish them. So that we formalize those, because if we're gonna do this for compensation, we better track them better than we have done. Would be my suggestion.
So Georgia just added off a few. You might wanna write down just to reference.
Yeah, we have personnel.
Mhm.
And then we have the logo, IT. Finding a building or a spot to rent. Healthcare,
Health insurance,
health insurance.
budget.
So if we,
Also good. You, George, did one.
Priority.
yeah, so it'd be good to get them listed and then just probably take action to reestablish and formalize them in the form of list.
Let's say, get them listed, not only list them, but who's on them.
Yeah, list and who's on
Maybe even a short description of what the committees focus on. I mean, that could even be adopted in a resolution too.
them. Yeah, we could do that. And there'd be probably a couple of them that have gone away, like you said, the logo one, we won't need that anymore. But anything we need,
Well, I think that's in
Continue.
the status that is resolved or it's completed or.
yeah, that'd be good.
Versus the budget one that is active.
Yeah,
Spreadsheet.
yeah, all right.
Why don't you just put them on your board page on the website?
Well, let's get the list approved first and then we can do that, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go ahead.
Yeah, like just to house it there all the time.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll make changes to it. It's just change there and it's, you know,
that'd be good. All right, what's up?
So is this language in red here been deleted? Okay, so maybe you can just.
You got that?
So question I had, are we ready to?
Go to public? Yeah, if there's no other discussion, we can take a break. I would take a break.
You're right.
take out the second one, because it's one like that.
And because it's going out for public comment, I don't need to take public comment right now, right?
You have board action and put it out to public comment,
Well, we'll have to take board action to put it out to public comment, or do we need to take public comment now?
then yes.
Oh. Okay. Any other discussion? Are we ready for public comment on this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Any public comment on this? No public in the audience physically today. Is there anybody online that has a comment on this?
If anyone online would like to make a comment, raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak. Seeing no one online. Comment.
Okay, no further public comment at this time. The action we're gonna take is to approve the modifications to the bylaws to be sent out for public comment. We need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to send the revised compensation bylaws out for public comment.
Motion by Roger,
I'll second.
second by Georgia, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we're done with that, why don't we take a break? And I think we have something we want to do during our break.
We'll have a leisurely breakfast.
So one. I mean,
Tell your family we said thank you.
that.
All right, I believe we're on item number 3. Hold on, I think I don't wanna miss something here. So we were gonna do a 3.3.3. Which was to review letter Haley. I don't know if we have the letter in front of us, but you were gonna. Or do we?
It's happening.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. That looks really.
Probably been up.
Take time, sweet time.
I've been close.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess just a recap of what this letter, includes. So this came from just, conversations with the board, wanting to update some personnel policies. Most of these are existing, so we'll just need to, update the proper language, within, I believe, the resolution, which will hit next on the agenda. And then, sections of the personnel policies, which we'll discuss later today. 3 main topics in this letter. So first was personal credit card usage, mainly trying to stray away from using personal credit cards, for purchases or expenditures for the operation of the board or the office of the engineer. Because the board does have, board associated credit cards. So that was the first one. The second one was starting to touch on mileage reimbursements. This will feed into the travel policy that we'll discuss in the personnel policies later. Which obviously needs to be flushed out, but essentially wanting to put parameters on what what can be reimbursed for mileage. So travel to and from the office for any site visits or field visits, travel for conferences, seminars, continuing education, meetings, and then other activities that could be determined by the board, which might be more further described in the personnel policies. That was 2. And then the third one was just procurement and then disposal of, board or office equipment. So procurement just needs to be documented with a receipt, of the purchase or expenditure and then given to the, board's financial team or budgeting personnel, however we want to describe them. Within 72 hours of the purchase or expenditure, so putting a time limit on there, but then also, accountability with documentation of the purchase or expenditure. And then if you go down just a little bit further, right there. Here. That proper disposal, and or sale of the equipment, it needs to be documented, but you essentially can't, person benefit from the disposal or sale of the outdated or unused equipment. So that needs to be a board decision on, or consensus on what to do with the unused or outdated equipment. That's essentially the recap of it.
The credit card piece, are we gonna talk more about that in the personnel policies, or is it pretty much just this?
So that mainly comes up in that resolution, that I believe we're discussing next. So any language in there would need to be refined.
Okay, I looked at so let me ask this question, and maybe I didn't follow it, so you had sent, Ethan, you had sent an email saying something about assigning a credit card to me, or what did I read?
I set up a process for our office under its tax ID number to get office credit cards, which are different than debit cards. They have advantages in that there's a 0 liability risk associated with them. They help you build credit as opposed to a debit card, which has no credit building. And then our credit card has earnings that it makes off of it that automatically go back into the operations account. And when I set it up, there were two things that happened. One, I got set up as an administrator who can set up credit cards for other people. Because we have to have one person, or at least one person in that role. Two, set up two credit cards, one under the water engineer position, and then one under the FRWMB chair, just on the off chance that it made sense for the board to have an active credit card for itself. That one has not been activated. It's not in your, it's in your job title, not in your personal. It's not associated with you as a person. Doesn't actually have anything with your name or anything associated there, but it's just tied to your position.
That's fine, okay, that clarifies that, I just wanna make sure that either. Well, once we get it into the resolution, that it's clear how we'll manage that part. It might be in the chair's name, but, wanna make sure it's clear how it's managed. That's all, I just wanna make sure that, yeah, Roger.
So Ethan, also, can you, explain the debit card situation too?
So, we had two debit cards. One was in Clayton's name and had been used well before I got here by staff. Then I had opened another one. That debit card for me was in my name. And so it was associated, you know, like it was tied to our account, but it had me as like the responsible, you know, person. And I did cancel that, not really wanting to have mine, have the debit card associated with my name like that, and instead opting to make any authorized board purchases on the company credit card that I started under a job title.
So then the other thing is on the other debit card that when we first started, it was just us. And I think we had to have some way to start. And I was working very closely at the time with the tribal attorney, Melissa. And I think when we got the first debit card, I think I actually handed it to her, gave it to her. And they used it, you know, for in some initial startup thing, and she gave it back. And I think when I got it back, I handed it to Ethan, but I don't know what's now appropriate for a debit card. And it may be my name, but it probably should be more formally attached to the position or the board, however we want to do it. So I'm not sure if you guys want to take a look at that and decide if there's a better way to.
Do we even need a debit card if we have credit cards? That's what I was thinking.
If you don't-
I don't know.
We could just cancel the debit cards and not have to worry about those, is what I was thinking.
That's what I would suggest. It's what the financial manager that I talked to suggested. It's what the Glacier, the guy that you know, who you, the guy you directed me to contact, I can't remember his name right now, but who runs their credit card application arrangement. He was like, yeah, you wanna do this credit card is a better deal because of you're earning a credit score, which you don't do with the debit card, and then B, you get the rewards and it's just a better protection.
Security,
Security plan out there. So, anyway, that said, though, whatever the board wants, currently the debit card that's in your name is in wellness.
If,
So
whenever it's appropriate, I'm perfectly comfortable canceling that if that's the right thing to do. Yeah.
okay, so
Right.
I guess I just trying to consolidate things here a little bit. I think it'd be good to get rid of both debit cards, and then I think, yeah, I understand we have 2 credit cards now.
There are 2 credit cards. One says water engineer on it. The other one says FRWMB chair. And then there's a process in place where if you want to have another one, that's different than that, you know, I believe I can make that occur or whatever you wanna do.
I guess maybe Haley will speak to this, but I'm thinking now that we have the financial team, we should assign them the responsibility of the credit card and let them take care of all the counting on that for credit cards, period, or however many we need. I guess I think we should definitely have one from Glacier Bank, because that's who we bank with. But I think in the long term, we should look at applying to Costco so we can buy stuff at Costco and but have it an FRWMB card also. So couple thoughts.
Yeah, well, we're down to one debit card now, right? We canceled one.
Yeah.
The other one, if it takes board action to do it, then we should do that, otherwise I'm comfortable, otherwise. Just saying cancel the debit card, you know.
You'll have to cancel the debit card. The one that's in your name,
The board or me.
you,
Oh, is there,
Matt will have to.
what's the
cancel.
process for doing that? I'll get her in.
It's, you just gotta, somebody hands you your card, and you call the number on the back and say, hey. this
Bring it
is
on.
Frank. I wanna, well, I cancel this card, but it is in your name, so,
Bring it on, we'll do that
Yeah.
today.
okay.
Any other comments, questions on the letter for Haley?
Yeah, I did have a comment. I'm not sure what the purpose of the letter is.
The last meeting, we talked about these items, a number of items. And there, we thought these items stood out as items we needed to immediately take a position and clarify. And so these do an initial immediate clarification for the staff on these items. And then there were a number of other items Haley was going to do some research on, and then we're going to do some policy modifications as we go along.
The second question I have, in those letter references of financial team. Is that the same as the OE budget personnel?
Yes.
Okay, if it doesn't include you two,
No.
okay. I think you should just be consistent, call it the OE budget personnel.
Good question, good point, all right. The letter went out, I don't know that, is it,
No, it's.
so you're good with, okay. All right,
I have a question about,
yes,
for the mileage reimbursement, how does this apply to contracted employees that have mileage agreements in their hire contracts?
I think as a matter of a place to start, this is just the initial clarification. And I think your question is appropriate, but we should probably tackle within the resolution or policy.
Yeah, Ethan, that's more specifically defined in the personnel policies. This was just policies that the board wanted to look at and immediately have some more context to. But then it's gonna be fleshed out or amended or revised within the specific policies that are in place.
Yeah, so we can get to it, so keep that question in mind. Unless it is there a contract or issue that you're dealing with right now that we need to address?
Well, yeah, I got somebody who's supposed to come here and do some training that has mileage included in their contract on Monday. They're not sure if this affects that or not.
Okay.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Sugar.
Sure.
So, given that, Haley, do you wanna consider that situation and advise us? Because I don't know what the issue is.
My understanding of what Ethan is saying is that in her employment contract or position description, she has it where, she can receive mileage, for when she travels up to Rodan.
So if there is a contract, the contract,
It supersedes.
the contract supersedes, yeah, so the
Correct,
contract
yeah.
addresses it.
Good deal. We got it here, so that's good enough for me. Thanks.
All right, any other comments, questions on the letter? Haley, thank you. All right. Anything? 3.4, board resolution amendment. So what we're looking at is some language changes in here.
Mr. Chairman, board members, what you're looking at is a very preliminary attempt at just, not really knowing what the board wanted, but trying to, you know, stick something in here for you to work off of to designate what you want to do for fiscal authorization granting to the OE budget personnel.
Okay, but the red items in here are what we're considering.
Yeah, and that's really, Mr. Chairman, board members, it's really just a copy of what you authorized for the water engineer. And then I changed some of the words, but it in no way is probably indicative of whatever your intentions
Sure, and I think that
are gonna be, so.
ultimately, we're also kind of depending on finalizing some of the work that you're doing, Haley, to help us transition, changing the organizational chart, changing policy and changing any position descriptions, so. Guessing that this is for discussion today and we probably don't need to take action on this today.
If the board wants to take action to amend the language that was put in here, that's fine. I have not made any changes to this document yet based on the conversations and following the letter that went out on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right. Board member. So, Mr. Chairman, you redrafted this red language?
No, I did draft it, but it's really, I mean, I did not participate in the meetings that you had, and I don't know what okay.
You did,
Yeah,
thank you.
so this is not something that's very well baked.
So the reason I ask is it seems there's a lot of duplication between the authority given to the water engineer and the board, and I don't know if that's what we want to do or not want to do, but you know.
Yeah, as Ethan points out, this is just a stab somewhat in the dark at giving us something to have a place to start. So yeah, whatever you're thinking
So
is,
this is not additional language, this is potentially replacement language too.
yeah, revising. I think it's aimed at trying to address where we're headed by creating a different organizational structure.
Okay, that's pretty much what I want to know.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and step out and just say, whatever language is in here, I would almost prefer to make sure that Haley gets a chance to get through some of her work and has a chance to take a look at this and try to meld them together. So I appreciate this, but that's, for me personally, where I'm at in my head.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess my initial stumbling block, and it's a pretty big one, is I'm not sure, just from looking at this, what the budget committee was thinking about. So you would ask me, should the water engineer or the OE budget personnel should do this task? I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, I think that's where I'm at is conceptually. I think we have this conceptual discussion so we can kind of give Haley and Ethan more guidance and give ourselves more food for thought to try to figure out where we wanna go. So yeah, you posed the question, so.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I just don't know enough.
No, it's, we're having a discussion.
I've just barely made a first cut on this too, so, and I thought the same thing, that we should let Haley make a review of this, and at the same time, we can review it and digest it and come back next meeting with revisions.
What I heard is more at the conceptual level. Where, I mean, if you sort of spin off of some of the discussion we had at the last meeting, and thinking about it conceptually, where are we going to head with this? What's our goal?
Yeah, and second, I mean, I conceptually, I think definitely, really, I'm thinking as a policy matter, we need to tell Haley what we want our policy to be. That's what I'm struggling with.
I think. Well, at that last meeting too, we kind of thought it would be in the best interest to start to segregate some of the financial duties from the direct responsibility of the OE and let the OE focus more on the water right, big picture things. And so we have staff that are capable of doing financial work. And so under the org chart, then we kind of conceptualize, we would bring down the board, and then the budgetary personnel or financial team or whatever you want to call them will report directly to the board with a line over to the OE, you know. So we're kind of restructuring the org chart a little bit.
So let's take, for example, number 6, authority to access necessary financial documents for conducting a board and the budget. So how do you decide if that should be done by the office engineer or the budget personnel? And that's a pure pretty much policy decision that we've got to come up with. And I'm not questioning your efforts whatsoever. It's, you know, I'm just trying to get my head around it.
No, there's a lot of logistics to figure out here. So,
Well, which in my mind at least, reinforces the thought that we wanted Haley to take a look at some of this and help us try to reformulate some of the positions and policy and work chart, so that we've got a full picture before we take any action. This is just, I think, a good, thought and initial thought at this, because this isn't all there is we've got to look at changing the org chart, we have to look at changing some policy, we have to look at changing some position descriptions, so this is just one piece of all that. And that's why I think we're probably a step or two away from. Actually, that's where I'm at the beginning. I don't know how, if you guys want to focus in on the details of the language of this right now, we can, but I think there's some pieces missing.
I think that'd be premature.
But aside from that, I think your question is good about at the conceptual level, where do we want to head with this? And I think Roger, kind of laid it out. How it's gonna work, don't know, but we've got the, that kind of a vision and that where we can make it head. Okay. So with that, Any other thoughts, questions that you want to share with Haley? Do you at this point have any more questions for us? And given anything that you've looked at so far?
No, I mean, my kind of summary before was that I received the position descriptions and employee files on Monday, so I'm trying to make it through that and see where we need to arrange that, or, you know, what roles and responsibilities were afforded to those employees or staff members, so that we can change the resolutions, policies, bylaws, to accommodate those, changes. Right, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've already gone through an initial review, and then now I just need to match up where, language might need to be revised.
Or anything else? Good. All right, so no action in 3.4 at this time. 3.5, we added was going to be an agenda format discussion, so, Roger?
Oh. So I guess, throw this out. I don't know, typically when I've been on other boards, they usually have the engineer's report right up in the front of the meeting, first real item on the agenda. And then after that, you get into board business. So I'm just looking at trying to standardize our format on these meetings so that, you know, originally on some of them, we were moving forward review and, you know, when we've had things to review before, if there was public in the audience, it gave them the opportunity to get in and comment and leave, you know. But I guess if they want to, you know, I'm not being a hard ass, but if they want to make comments, they can kind of stick around for that section of the meeting, you know. I mean, I'm just trying to get us on a consistent schedule here.
I guess my concern would be, you know, these people have jobs, stuff like that, and you sit here for 3.5 hours to get to the point where they can comment. That's why I pushed early on for that kind of, you know, board business be first. These people get in here, get their comments and go on with the business. And it's just a concern.
Yeah.
You know, you're right, they can sit here for like, you know, the other day, I forget his name, I'm sorry. Casey, he sat here for 2-3 hours, give a, you know, 30-second comment.
Yeah. Well, I'm open. Either way, I just want to get it standardized, so.
Well, I think, you know, I like what you're suggesting, but I just think we need to be cognizant of the public and give them a reasonable chance to comment.
Okay.
For what it's worth, my office has received multiple verbal comments and they wish to be at the water policy stuff up front, so they can comment and leave. So that was why the reorg, you know, was afoot in the last 2 meetings, just to try to modify that, to put the water policy things. That said, whatever you want to do is fine with me, but that's what happened.
Another, since we're in the mood of throwing things out today. And throwing them up. I've observed boards, but never been on many. Maybe you guys have other thoughts, but we could also have different kinds of meetings. We could have a meeting that just focuses on just policy. And another meeting that focuses on just administrative stuff. Instead of trying to put it all in one. Each time. Kind of like that.
That would be a good segue into me trying to figure out what the agenda is supposed to be like for next week, because I had planned on making that all water policy, just focused on the WPMP sections that we need to move along, but I also just started to talk about the resolution. So I need some direction on that item. I do understand that you wanted a groundwater presentation at that meeting, and I'm trying to accommodate things. We definitely are not getting through agenda items very fast. And so I think trying to separate topical items is a good idea.
If you do that, you might even be able to shorten up the meeting. I see a smile over there. I like that. And we're meeting, like Haley said, typically 2 times a month, we could meet more often. But, I mean, that's just a thought. You know, if I was on the phone and this was a phone call, I'd be going, anybody there? But we're not, and I know you're here, so. Yeah, Shane.
You know, I think because we provide public comment after each section, that there's, as long as we don't amend the agenda too much and we stay on task roughly, no matter what, whether we do a topic driven meeting or we lump sum everything, as long as we're attentive to the timeline that we're in that segment of the meeting, we're affording the public comment after each section. And if they can look down and go, well, roughly the thing I'm interested in isn't until halfway down the agenda, which is going to be roughly 2 hours, after they start. So I'll show up around 3. That, to me, we're still providing that ability for someone to come in and talk about a particular item. The concern is they see it posted on the internet and they go, oh, it's towards the end of the day. I'm not gonna show up till 3:30 or 4. Well, we moved it to 1:30, we moved it up in the agenda. That's not what we posted. So that's where I get concerned, is when we make our kind of reprioritize the deck when we publicized it differently. And to me, that is, the more we can minimize shuffling the deck the day of, the better. And we'll be better at, when the public walks in, they can be better gauge that we're true to our agenda. No matter what it is, if it's all topic driven, or if it's the hodgepodge, maybe they are interested in personal policies. And then they have a general idea when we're gonna talk about it, early or late in the year. So I guess, long story short, if we just stick to the agenda, that's the consistency that I think we can provide the public. Is just minimize changing the agenda and stick to it to the best of our ability. Okay, thanks.
It makes sense to me. What Shane's talking about there.
Roger is suggesting sort of a change in order and standardizing it that way. I mean, it's been kind of standard, but changing that standard, so I'm not sure where you stand on that.
Well, like Shane said, if you have an agenda that you put out, you're saying that you're gonna follow that order. And then if you have people sitting here waiting, that we don't even get to it. So I think if you approve an agenda, maybe try to, like Shane said, stick close to it as you can.
I think that's, and I totally agree with Shane too. I think, and that's where kind of coming from. So we don't keep rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Let's get a format and stick to it. So that's,
That's the reason for this.
yeah, so
I
that.
like your statement, except I'd rather a different ship.
Well, and to
Clean
me,
Mary maybe, but
the key thing is that we're noticing our agenda, which to me is an important part. So even if we flip the agenda back and forth every meeting, the point is they got to see it, you know,
Right.
a week before the meeting. So to me, the format being consistent from meeting to meeting is not as important as it is that we're publicizing it a week or whatever our rules say, at least a week before the meeting, because that's the public's ability is to pull up the website and go, this is when they are gonna be talking about the agenda, the item that I'm interested in is roughly in the middle of the meeting.
The current notice policy is what, 48 hours?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a week, it's 48 hours.
so we try to give you, you two the agenda ahead of time and get the feedback on it. Then try to post it, but when we have situations like, you know, back-to-back meetings, one week after another that build off of each other, it's a pretty tight timeframe for us to try to get everything done, and so, we do what we can. We have been using the share folder, and I mean, at this point, we're posting things on the internet, on the share drive, and sometimes still emailing them, which is kind of a lot for our staff to handle on meeting information distribution, you know? It'd be great if, like, the whole timeline for everything would probably be a little reduced if we could all land on one spot where you'd like to see the meeting information, but, you know, that'll help us meet the timelines a little more readily. Just have the draft agenda on the share drive, you look at it there. Maybe emails that you had a change that you want to see, things like that could make it a little easier. And definitely, I would like to not leave this topic without knowing if we should move water policy things up ahead of the board business and, office of the water engineer sections, you know.
Well, just to complicate things a little bit, it seems like I recall we did take a vote to put items for the public first, to be respectful of public involvement. And I don't know, you guys can check the minutes and see, but I thought that's something we'd already agreed to. And we have been shuffling it a little bit. And the other thing I've been thinking about listening to the discussion, and you all make good points, is that recently we haven't had very much public involvement. But I anticipate there's gonna be a whole lot more. And so once we start rolling into some of these other items that we know are coming, there's likely to be a lot more public here. So I know that what we're doing here is getting scrutinized. And there continues to be a lot of misinformation about what this office does and doesn't do. I think there'll be more people coming in. I would like to be sensitive to that and make sure that we're taking care of those visitors first. So they do have that opportunity. You know, it's hard to get people to get involved, and if they've taken the initiative to drive down here and sit in the audience, I think we need to be respectful of that. That's just my 2 cents, throwing that in.
Chief,
So I think that, you know, moving the board business down, but, you know, I think I get having a consistent, whatever it is, just be consistent with it. But I think the only thing that bothers me about moving the board business is the adoption of minutes is in there. And if you don't adopt your minutes, the previous meeting till near the end of the current meeting. So to me, we would split that. If we do move the board business or the board items down, we keep the board, you know, adoption of those minutes up in you know, in number one. As part of what we do at the beginning of every meeting is we adopt, you know, the meeting minutes from the last meeting. And we just pull that out of the board business. And then we can slide that board business wherever we need to.
That particular piece, proving minutes could easily be like if you look at our agenda, it could be easily be, you know, 1.5. And then adopt the agenda, 1.6. It flows it out of there and then it's not necessarily board business, just done. What are you thinking, Roger?
That sounds good. I'm just looking for consensus so that I don't keep moving things around.
Well, when it comes to the public and the public interest, the public has a right to know all of this, but their interest is gonna lie mostly in the water policy stuff, not the administrative policy stuff. So, and we tend to have water policy stuff under board business and under the Office of Water Engineer business. So I'm not sure putting one in front of the other is gonna be, the first time we switch it, we're gonna have something the public's interested in later on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I can make an active effort to eliminate that problem before we go. If you tell me right now to keep water policy items up higher in the schedule, I can put them as standalones, not under, Office of the Engineer or the board business sections, and we can reserve the Office of the Engineer and board business sections for, you know, compensation stuff, administrative stuff, and personnel policies. In a situation where you thought bylaws transcended, you know, or resolutions transcended, an issue, from being an organizational structure type of thing to being some kind of a governance over water policy, we can elevate that also, and I can tap everybody on the shoulder and ask them about that in advance, if this is the marching orders.
Mr. Chairman, maybe Ethan could do that, just circulate a proposed format for us to take a look at.
Would that help solve?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And like the Office of the Engineer's report could just be like he's got here, you know, application updates, budget updates, all those administrative things, and then all the policy stuff can go in to some of these other categories, you know. Like this resolution that we just worked on. That could have been under the water engineers because there's really nobody in the public that's interested in that. They're interested in the water rights changes. So
would you like, to take up Ken's suggestion?
yeah, no, I think it's a great idea.
So why don't you say it again?
I was just thinking that Ethan, like you just described, would put together a proposed format and circulate it to the board and for just our thoughts on it. Does it meet consistency concerns? Does it meet public comment opportunity concerns? That sort of thing.
Sound fair?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, want to take a shot at that?
It's gonna look a lot like the agenda for next week's meeting, and that's the format's gonna, I've been making changes to that while we're sitting here talking. Another thing, if you don't throw rocks at me about this, I will mention it, if it's possible, since we're gonna be having the, board adoption of the meeting minutes moved up higher in the schedule, folks can read those in advance. And then really when it hits that review of the board meetings, really what you would do at that time is like, you already know what's
Just
wrong,
take action.
or you already know that you're good to go, you know what I mean? So that way we could just roll right through that item, since it's right at the start of the meeting, we could just move right through that section. And also, we do try to post that in advance. Feel free to let us know if there is something in error. I mean, between, the folks working on your meeting information, we're moving a lot of documents. And so you're gonna have some errors from time to time. And there's not any harm in helping us to, get that pointed out sooner. Cause I might look at a meeting agenda that 3 other people have looked at that has the wrong day on it still. So we need that kind of help, many eyes, to make it work. Anyway, it's just an idea about the board adoption of meeting minutes, and James has been a superstar, helping us, keep on top of those, and, so thank you. Sitting too, yeah.
All right, with consensus, then, take a stab, and we can always change it again, but let's take a stab at, take a stab at a format that looks like it, and sounds like it'll meet, some of our concerns. Anything else? Good, all right. We have a new 4.1 budget update, so if Rhonda is available, could we do a quick budget update? Good afternoon.
So we've had some developments. On Monday, we met with our board committee and we started the development of our financial team. And so with that, we also sent over the signed contract for Red Tail, and she absolutely couldn't wait to get going. So she's currently cleaning up our files and cookbooks and getting them ready for us to start our end of things. So Christy and I have been going through and reconciling all of our files. And so we're going to be uploading anything missing and also attaching receipts into cookbooks. And we're going to be starting with 2024 and working backwards. There's hopes that Red Tail is going to be able to help us really expedite the budget for 2024. So we're hoping that we're gonna have some good news here in a couple weeks. So we're just really diligently working through it. Roger has been working with our IT team, getting Red Tail access to a shared, I guess you call it a SharePoint or a shared drive location. So then we'll be dropping files and communicating through that area. So yeah, right now it's just a bunch of reconciling, requesting receipts and putting stuff together. So that's where we're at. You guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, did you guys get a chance to meet with, Greg?
No, we were kind of gonna wait to see what Red Tail was gonna produce and then,
And then
yeah, then the timing would be better then, so.
So one comment on the larger picture. There's a lot of reasons for moving this budget stuff the way we are. But in the bigger picture, one of the reasons is we need to be able to begin having some discussions with the state and the tribe about our future funding.
Absolutely.
So the next funding cycle, the next time they're ready to allocate, if we can contribute to that discussion in a meaningful way and say, whatever you've given us is great, but this is what what our spending looks like, what it's gonna look like into the future, and we need X, Y, Z more, or I can't imagine we're gonna ask for less. So, So that's important. We're gonna need to,
Absolutely.
as we move forward with this, and I think the sooner the better. And then the whole building funding business is gonna be separate from that. That's a piece of the discussion as well. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, Brendan.
I just wanted to acknowledge Rhonda and Christie. They've rolled up their sleeves, dug into it. They're pretty steadfast after it, so good job, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Ethan. That moves us to application updates.
Mr. Fritz, sorry.
Yes.
I'll give you this one.
You're good.
Move this table up and down a bit between each moment so you get time to reset your thinking.
Sorry, this was kind of a last minute effort here. I'm just passing them around to you. Getting us the data quickly. We've approved 9 new applications since the start of August. As you can see, we have the rest of the domestic allowance applications for July in there as well. Steady trend of new applications are coming in the door pretty consistently.
Might be a good, thank you. Any questions on that? It might be a good time to take just a moment. During the break, I was talking with Shane and he was giving me a bit of a heads up on something that is transpiring, developing within the irrigation project world. And so you might wanna, so Shane, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and this does tie right in with this, and so what's under current evolution is, I think the best way to put it is this off-season stock water use. And the way BIP has implemented that in the past versus where it's going in the future with the implementation of the water compact. And what is associated with that is a DNRC grant to mitigate any potential losses to off-season stock water. And, you know, co-meeting right now, CITT is working with DNRC to develop what that grant process looks like. And I believe that's a $4 million pot of money that will come live maybe this winter, they're hoping, you know, depending on how fast they can get it all pulled together. But that's just the funding side, right? You know, so if, for example, if someone wants to drill a well using that off-season stock water mitigation fund through DNRC or any other funds that they may come up with, that still has to come through this office to drill that well, to mitigate the loss of any potential stock water. So there's going to be an influx, I think, of applications to this office, either for change of use or for new development, utilizing the various funds that are out there as this off-season stock water mitigation funds come online over the next year or two. So just, you know, it's very timely to be looking at these numbers. You know, I'm sure Ethan knows a little bit about it, but probably even wouldn't hurt to have the DNRC folks that are pioneering this grant process to come give us an update on, or even a CITT representative, either or, to just let us know what the progress is. When could we expect our offices to start experiencing this workload? So that's, I bring it up in the context that there's a future workload of at least $4 million coming, and whatever that may look like.
That money is part of the settlement
What's that?
If it's the money you're talking about, that's part of the settlement money, so it's not, it's fixed.
Yeah,
You know, it's not something that's in the works, it's something that.
yeah, and they're just developing the grant process to
Yeah.
allocate, I believe that the $4 million that are in the settlement for this specific purpose. So which plays exactly to what you're laying out here is what our current workload is. And so this is a forecast of some other workload that could be coming to this group.
So what would be good timing, to bring other folks in to just give a presentation? Are we talking weeks or a couple months or?
I think in the next month or two, the grant process isn't fleshed out entirely yet. So, but they could, in the next month or two, it should be nearly finished. And the timeline should solidify a little bit stronger under when their application process would be accepted. Then that's gonna lead to applications coming here.
So your recommendation would be to have DNRC and or a CITT representative come and do that?
Yeah.
So maybe in a month or so, but that maybe sometime toward the end of August, end of September, that'd be a good timeframe.
Yeah, I
Shoot
think so.
for. I mean, we could always.
I'll probably go ahead and touch base with the NRCS too, because I know that they had brought their cost share program online. We've had several stock wells coming in, so we always expected that between the NRCS program and the settlement, which is now a grant process, which is a great way to get that money out the door, then we'd see an influx of these things. So,
And it'll get interesting too, because this money is, if I understand it all right, that this money is specific to off-season stockwater use. So I think that's gonna play into our WPT. If they drill a well to mitigate off-season stockwater use, is that a year-round feature now? So that would be the change of use in one aspect. So anyway, there's the other things to think about in that regard, because they're still gonna get in-season, what they're calling in-season use is during the normal irrigation season. There still will be in-season stock use. It's the off-season, what they call off-season, which is no longer irrigation season. Post-irrigation season stock use, it's called off-season stock use. That's what's being mitigated, is that last, from September to October, November, December-ish timeframe. So when they come in here for an application, is it a year-round application, or is it just for that off-season time period? Of which it will no longer be providing, or not providing maybe the full use that they did in the past. So I'm not sure how that's all gonna dovetail.
Is it anticipate they'd be mostly wells?
It could be spring developments, it could be holding, storage.
we have a surface water allowance for stock also, which is unique.
So we have a form specifically for this, stock water use. And how well will that dovetail into what this mitigation fund is for?
Well, speaking of dovetailing, I kind of hope that Haley can help us think about this, not that. Well, we may have to think about it, is, so for the off-season stock water use, historically, the water that those water users have been relying on has come from the project.
Yeah.
So if they paid for their delivery, they get that water, correct?
Historically, yes.
But the point is it's coming from a project. And that's a project water right. Correct. So these individuals, in changing that, do they understand that they're actually going to be, they're looking at securing their own water right?
Correct.
And I will hopefully don't get faced with the argument, at least the argument that people are gonna say, well, I've had this all along, I shouldn't have to. You know, I should get it because it's been Project Water, I should get this water. We shouldn't.
Well, and this is why I bring it up, is so we can move in tandem with that effort. Rather than one happen and then ours happen, that and it shouldn't be implied just because they got the grant to do X, that it's gonna get paid through this office. So they kind of have to go together, that if we can't approve a well, for example, but they put in money for a well and got money for a well, then they're in pinch point. We don't want to put people in that position. So that's why I bring it up, is so we can start having communication with DNRC and CITT.
As we have that communication, then we should think about what PR should get out there in front of all this, or as it's happening, so that people are not completely, or at least don't feel like they're blindsided. Even though the information's all gonna be there, there are people who are gonna say, oh, I didn't know
Absolutely, and that is a
but that's-
two-tiered process, that the grant money, or what, if they even want to use their own private funds or equip funds or whatever funds are available is one tier. And the second tier is coming through the office here for the application of a change of use or new use.
But that's it'd be largely for them new, because that's irrigation project water, which means it's project water right, not their water right. Which means they'd be changing to actually securing their own water right, which is subject to a whole different set of rules.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's gonna be every combination of things that you can imagine, that are gonna be, thing I've learned about water rights is they're all unique.
That's exactly.
It's great to have a template, but, most things don't fit that template. So anyway, this is just an awareness. Because it fits well within, what our workload has been and what you guys have been working on. And it's something I can see developing as I sit in various meetings, related to stockwater use, FIP usage. And there's a lot of talk about it right now through the community. So I think it's something we should start being prepared for.
One of the questions that I have, maybe you don't know yet, or it's not determined, but has BIA coming out, to let folks know, is it gonna do this year, that off-season stock water deliveries cease to be an option, or is it?
It's still in question.
Okay, so there's. Okay, that was my understanding, is that was still an open question
Yeah.
as to whether it's gonna be this year or next. And the reason it matters is people are gonna get really interested really fast if all of a sudden a letter comes out from the IA that's in the cessation at off-season stock water.
Yeah.
Would be this year.
And FIP's highly interested in that same question.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. Okay, so I figured I'd take advantage of having the discussion here to try to find out if we do.
A little extra on that, the CITT is actually, part of their meeting today.
Oh, okay, well, I'll have to try to see if I can get, somebody over there to brief me on how that turned out, and, or, feel free to. But it would be nice to know if that'll be a level of work that'll be hurried. If they really, if folks are gonna have to go through alternatives in short order.
Does the irrigation project have the data on stock water, those offers of off-season stock water uses?
They were trying to collect that. It's not clean. O&M fees are by the acre.
Yeah.
Not by the cows,
Yeah,
number of cows. but there's an idea of where the off-season saltwater was headed in general. So
There is a map.
they can ballpark it,
We've got some visual reference to that at some point, we might want to include that.
but they were asking the same question too.
Okay. Good. All right, anything more for James on this?
Nope.
Okay, so we are at 4:44. We have not yet hit personnel policies. And personnel policies was gonna be a big one. And we're looking at wanting to do our executive session here. So what would you like to do?
I have a hard leave time 5:30.
Okay. Well, in the next 15 minutes, I don't know that we're gonna get too much personnel policy stuff. Even though I know it's important and we need to get to it, so.
I could give you a chance to do like one easy one. Is it,
Yeah,
not trying to interject at the wrong time here, but
well,
there's
what,
an easy one.
which one is it?
You can go to retirement. And, you get help answer a question for a couple of, new employees as to when they can sign up for retirement, I think.
You want to talk about retirement?
You know, I'd like to research that a little bit, and I have done a little bit of research, but I'd like to research it a little bit more before the next meeting.
All right, I'm gonna suppose we just move on then. Yeah, put this at public comment. Any public comments? As we adjourn the regular meeting,
We have no public online.
and so there's no public in the audience, so no public comment. Next meetings are August 21 and September 4 still, so any changes to those? We're good. Okay, those are the next meeting dates. Final comments on the open session, Shane? No. Ken? Perfect. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
on the August 21st meeting, I'll be in northern Washington on vacation, but I will take my laptop and try to join you on Zoom.
okay. All right, we'll just keep in touch with
But if I
that.
don't make it, I'll let you know. I'll give you a call or something. Well, should be able to get to it all.
Well, if you're having lots of fun at that moment,
on it,
I don't expect you to log in.
Leavenworth and some police in that area.
Oh, yeah. Good for you. All right. Motion to adjourn the regular meeting?
I know that.
Motion by Roger. Second by Ken. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Let's adjourn this regular meeting. We will get ready for our executive session.